Greetings, legendary readers. Welcome to Larry's Legendary Library, where I explore science fiction, fantasy, and other bits and bobs. Today is Magazine Monday, and I am going to look at thrilling science fiction, the August 1973 issue. I actually just picked this issue more or less at random. I think I have like 3 issues of this magazine, and I'm not really that familiar with it. And so I thought it'd be a good excuse to pull one out and see what it has to offer. From my research, Thrilling Science Fiction was a long-running American Digest magazine that helped carry classic science fiction from the Pulp era into the 70s. It descended from titles like Thrilling Wonder Stories and Startling Stories. It ran under this name, Thrilling Science Fiction, from 1959 until 1975. By the early 70s, thrilling science fiction wasn't really trying to reinvent the genre, but it was consistently delivering solid, idea-driven stories from a mix of veteran writers and other professionals. It may not have been the flashiest magazine on the newsstands, but it played an important role in keeping traditional science fiction storytelling alive during a time of major change in the genre. In this issue, I'm going to take a closer look at 3 stories and see whether this particular installment lives up to that legacy, if thrilling science fiction is in fact still thrilling. The first story I'm going to look at is Summons of the Void by Daniel F. Galouye. Our protagonist is Hugh Vanderloff, a physicist at a university who's trying, albeit unsuccessfully, to get approval from the dean for a series of psychic experiments. When the dean shuts him down, Hugo turns to a co-worker and friend, John Barnett, for support. The experiment itself is fairly straightforward, at least conceptually. Hugo bombards himself with a wide range of stimuli, different frequencies of light, sound, x-rays, and so forth, to see if he can stumble upon the correct sequence of frequencies where he could perceive them not through normal physical senses like hearing and sight, but psychically through his mind. At first, he does experience some success, but along with it comes something far more disturbing. He finds himself trapped in this deep, dark void that he can't seem to escape from. Ultimately, and this is the climax to the story, Hugo discovers that he can create light with his mind and even shape entire worlds almost like a god. Usually, I try to avoid spoilers, but in this case, I don't feel too bad about it. Honestly, this story didn't really work for me. I found it flat, unengaging, and philosophically thin. And so I'm giving Summons of the Void an L1, lackluster. I'm not sure. That might be my first L1 rating given. I'm sure there are readers that might enjoy it more than I did, but I did look into it some, and it really hasn't been reprinted much as far as I can tell. This issue of the magazine is the second and final appearance in print. Story 2, Shores of Infinity by Edmond Hamilton, and the cover by Paula McLean is illustrative of our story here. Hamilton is one of the great pioneers of early science fiction. He was often called the world wrecker. He was famous for thinking big, galaxy-spanning conflicts, cosmic forces, and humans brushing up against powers far beyond their understanding. He was influential on later space opera, and you can definitely get the feel of early space opera here. The protagonist is John Gordon, a man who has traveled through time and space and now finds himself in the far distant future. almost immediately it's clear that this is a middle section of a much larger story. As you're reading, you feel like you miss the beginning, and when you finish the story, it feels like you're missing the ending. And so in this middle chapter, Gordon and the woman he loves finds themselves under attack, with implication for a much broader galaxy-wide conflict. As Gordon and his friend investigate, they find themselves captured, imprisoned, and eventually they come face to face with an old nemesis that they believe to be dead. In the twist, the nemesis actually helps them escape, and the story ends just as they're preparing to embark on yet another grand adventure, and then it stops. It's probably not fair to judge this story entirely on its own, but it was presented on its own here in this issue, and so I'm going to judge it unfairly or not. Anyway, I'm giving The Shores of Infinity an L2, low key. There are moments of interest. You can see Hamilton's strengths shining through from time to time, but without the beginning and without the ending, the story feels incomplete, and ultimately it falls a bit flat. Read as part of a fuller narrative, if you were to find the full story, it might rank much higher. And story 3, The Last Friday in August by David Eli. This one is very different. There's no flashy science fiction hook here, no big explanations, no grand technological ideas. Instead, Eli gives us something far more unsettling, a quiet, psychological portrait of a man slowly descending into madness, while never quite knowing if what he's experiencing is supernatural or just entirely internal. What I appreciated most about this story is the mood. It's restrained, it's reflective, and it's quietly cruel in the way that real life can sometimes be. And it lingers with you. I'm giving The Last Friday in August an L3 legit. It is worth reading, not for its science fiction or for its big ideas, but for its tone and atmosphere, very restrained, almost Hitchcockian. So a bit of a mixed bag for today's Magazine Monday, an L1, an L2, and an L3. They can't all be L5s. That being said, on this quick glimpse, I don't know that I'm willing to give a final judgment on thrilling science fiction, and if it remains thrilling. So I guess I'm going to need to check out more. The verdict is still out. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, stay legendary. Legendary.